Hello students, let's start with the reported speech in assertive and interrogative sentences. Sentences that make a statement are called assertive sentences. These sentences may be positive, negative, false, or true statements. To convert such sentences into indirect narration or indirect speech, use the rules as mentioned above, except said is sometimes replaced with told. Now, above means in the previous videos we have already discussed with the rules of indirect speech or reported speech. Now, look at the following sentences or the examples. Indirect speech: she says, I'm writing a letter to my brother. Now, this is a simple statement in a present continuous tense where she is the reporting subject, says is the reporting verb in the present tense. So, the sentence will not be changed as the reporting verb is says. So, the indirect speech will be she says that she is writing a letter to her brother. In the same manner, if we have another example, she says, I was not writing a letter to my brother. Now, this is a sentence in negative. So, in the same manner, she says that she was not writing a letter to her brother. Now, here we see since the sentence is in past tense and the reporting verb is in present tense, she says. So, again, the statement will not be changed. The tense of the statement will not be changed. I was not writing will become she was not writing. Here, only the main rules of the pronoun will be changing. Tense will remain the same. I will become she, and writing a letter to her brother. My brother will become her brother. So, the pronoun will change, nothing else. The tense will remain the same. Again, let's see another example. In direct speech, she said to me. Now, please note this here, children. She said to me. She is the reporting subject. Said is the reporting verb in past tense. And to me, there's a change here. Here we have a reporting object also. Me is the reporting object to whom it is reported. I am writing a letter to my brother. So, in indirect speech, this whenever we have a reporting object, it will be the said will be changed to told. Say will be told to tell or tells. So here it will become she told me that she was writing a letter to her brother. Now here the tense has changed. This is the difference. I'll explain it further in detail. The tense why it has changed and all, because the reporting verb is in past tense, so the statement will change. Now let's see the same rule in detail. So once again I will repeat that here when we talk about the reporting speech in assertive sentence, what happens is a direct speech in assertive sentence is reported in two ways, that as we saw just in the previous examples, on the basis of the absence or presence of the reporting object. First, let's take if there is no reporting object, like say, says, that, then we'll write say, says that, or said that in past tense, or will, shall say that in future tense. So, this is to be written after the reporting subject as explained below in detail, and then the assertive sentence can be reported by applying all the rules that are meant for indirect speech, and the changes that we have discussed earlier, that what will be converted to what. Like, for example, the pronouns will be changed and the time will be changed and so on. Let's see further. Said that is written when the reporting verb is in the simple past form, and here the tense form of the direct speech will be changed. Example: James said, I have bought a chain for my wife. Now, here James is the reporting subject, said is the reporting verb which is in past tense. And I have bought a chain for my wife. This is a present perfect tense. I have bought a chain. It is present perfect tense. So obviously this will be converted to past perfect tense because the reporting verb is said. So this statement has to be converted. The tense will change. So here the sentence will become James said that he had bought a chain for his wife. We see the pronoun also has changed and even the tense has changed. Alright, now let's move on. If there is a reporting object, tell, tells plus RO is the reporting object plus that, or told, that is in past tense, plus reporting object plus that, or will, shall plus tell plus reporting object plus that. This is the rule, children. This is the formula when we have a reporting object. This is the second type. As we saw the first type which did not have the reporting object, this is the second type of sentences in assertive which can have a reporting object. So when we have the reporting object, so in future tense it will be will, shall plus tell plus reporting object plus that. Now is to be written after the reporting subject, and then we can report the assertive sentence as per the rules we have already studied earlier. Now here RO stands for reporting object, children. Tell, tells plus RO, that is the reporting object, plus that is to be written after the reporting subject when the reporting verb is in the simple present tense. And then the tense form of the direct speech is not changed. Example, James says. Now, says is the reporting verb which is in present tense, and James, because it is singular, that's why says to me. Now here me is the reporting object. This is the change we are seeing. Okay, so here reporting object is me and the reporting verb is in the simple present form. So what will happen? The tense will not change and it will be written as James tells. Why tells? Because there is a reporting object. So when we have reporting object, say and said becomes tells or told. So James tells me that he often goes to Jen's beauty parlor. Now here we saw that everything else has changed except the tense because the reporting verb is in present tense, so we can't change the tense. Now, if we have to see the same thing in the past tense, it will be, the rule will be told plus reporting object plus that is to be written when the reporting verb is in simple past form, and then the tense form of the direct speech is changed, because if it is written said, then obviously the tense will change. Example, Vergis said to his uncle. Now let's see this part of the sentence. I'll move on to the next part later. Vergis is the reporting subject. Said is the reporting verb which is in past tense. And to his uncle is the reporting object. So when we have the reporting object, said will become told in the indirect speech. And it will be written as, and the sentence is, I saw you yesterday at market. So I saw you yesterday at market. Which tense it is, children? It is simple past tense. So obviously when the reporting verb is said, this tense will change to past perfect tense, because past tense changes to past perfect tense as we have studied in the rule earlier in previous videos. So here we'll see the sentence will become, Vergis told his uncle that he had seen him last day or the previous day at market. Now let's move on to the same type of sentences but in future tense. So the rule is will, shall plus tell plus reporting object plus that is to be written when the reporting verb is in simple future form, and then the tense form of the direct speech will not be changed, just like the present tense. It will not be changed, as we discussed in the topic. Exceptional rules are there. Okay. Now, example, they will say to the manager. So, they is the reporting subject. Will say is the reporting verb which is in future tense. To the manager is the reporting object. So here will say will become will tell because the reporting object is there. We can't afford our daily expenses with our salary. Now this is a simple present tense, but it will not be changed because the reporting verb is will say, future tense. So let's see the example what it will be. They will tell the manager that they can't afford their daily expenses with their salary. So here we saw the tense didn't change. So in simple present tense, when the reporting verb is in simple present tense, when the reporting verb is in simple future tense, the tense will not change. And if the reporting verb is in simple past tense, only then, if it is said or asked, only then it will be changed. Now let's move on to the interrogative sentences in the reported speech. Now, what are these interrogative sentences? Let's see that first, children. Sentences that are used to ask questions are called interrogative sentences. They end with a question mark. Now, there are two types of interrogative sentences. Let's understand it very clearly, children. One of that can be answered in yes or no, and the other cannot be answered in yes or no. Okay, now let's see how it is. The example is in the direct speech, my uncle said to me, what are you studying? Can we answer it in yes or no? No, we have to give a particular answer to this, right? So these are called as were questions. Were questions with, that is the WH questions, cannot be answered in yes or no. So the reported speech will be, or the indirect speech will be, my uncle asked. Now said will become asked or inquired. This is to be written as the reporting verb when we are dealing with interrogative sentences. So my uncle asked me. Here we have a reporting object also. So asked me what I was studying. Now we saw, children, there is a change in the statement. Now what we have to understand is that in indirect speech, when we are talking about interrogative sentences, or whether it is exclamatory, request or command, any type of sentence, in the indirect speech all the sentences will be converted to a simple statement ending with a full stop, and the question marks and exclamation marks will be removed. So here we see that what are you studying will become what I was studying. What are you studying is in simple present continuous tense. It will become past continuous tense. So what I was studying. I can't say what was I studying. It will again remain a question if I write it, and it will be an incorrect sentence. I have to say what I was studying. So here we saw that what remains the same? It does not change in WH questions. Are is the auxiliary verb which goes after the pronoun. Pronoun also changes. You becomes I, because in the reported object it is said asked me. So me is I. So when you are reporting, you will say asked me what I was studying. So I pronoun will come before, and was, which is the auxiliary verb, the conversion of are in the present tense will become was in the past tense according to the subject, and the rest will remain the same. So here what we have to know, I'll once again repeat that interrogative sentences in direct speech are changed into assertive sentences or simple statements. Now let's deal with the same thing which I explained just now as a strict rule, what is to be followed, and what are the two main things that you need to remember in interrogative. Remove the quotation marks and the comma from the reported speech when we are converting the interrogative sentences into reported speech. Put the question word were, that is WH family word, at the beginning of the reported speech, means it will not change when the question can't be answered in yes or no, as we saw in the previous example. If the question can be answered in yes or no, replace the helping verb or the auxiliary verb with if or whether. We'll deal with such examples also. Put the subject of the reported speech after it, as we saw that subject of the reported speech was written after that, And after if, whether I can, whether I could, and put the verb after the subject. Like we saw, the in every interrogative sentence, when it is converted to statement, subject will be written before the auxiliary verb, and auxiliary verb will come after the subject or the pronoun or the noun. So the reporting verb say in the direct speech is changed into ask or inquire, and the reporting verb said, if it will be written as asked or inquired, and the question mark will be obviously removed because it will be converted into an assertive or a statement sentence. Now, what are the things once again to be noted? That interrogative sentences that can be answered in yes, no start with auxiliary verbs like is, am, are, do, does, has, have, will, shall, can, could, may, might, should, would. Now, these questions will start with these auxiliary verbs, and the answer to these questions will be in yes or no way. And interrogative sentences that can't be answered in simple yes or no start with WH family words like what, why, where, when, how, who, whom, etc. So let's see the examples now. These were the rules that we discussed. Now let's move on to the examples and their formula. In direct speech, when we talk about direct speech structure, the auxiliary verb, it will start with the auxiliary verb plus subject plus main verb plus subject complement, okay, and question mark is also a part of the sentence, children. So auxiliary verb plus subject plus main verb plus object or modifier question mark. So these are how to be written, we'll see now. In indirect speech, if and whether plus subject plus main verb plus subject complement, and if whether plus subject plus main verb plus object or modifier. Now let's see how you'll understand this formula in the form of example. In a direct speech, he asked her, comma, will you go out for shopping today? Now here we see he is the reporting subject, asked is the reporting verb which is in past tense, her is the reporting object. Will you? Now it starts with the auxiliary verb will. Will you go out for shopping today? Now this can be answered as either yes or no. So these sentences, how they are going to be converted? They will be requiring if and whether, and will be removed from that place, and it will be converted into past as per the rule studied earlier. Let's see it. In the indirect speech, it will become he asked her if or whether you will become she, because it's written her in the reporting object. If or whether she would, now will become would go out for shopping that day. Today will become that day. Again, another sentence. The guy on the street said to me, do you know whom you are messing with? Again, question mark because it's an interrogative sentence. So here we saw that the guy is the reporting subject. On the street, said is the reporting verb which is in past tense. To me is the reporting object. Do you? Now again, do is the auxiliary verb. It doesn't start, it's not a WH question, it's an auxiliary verb. Do you know whom you are messing with? So in the indirect speech, it will become the guy on the street asked me if I knew. Now we cannot write do as did here. We have to change it into simple past tense for the main verb know. So it will become if I knew whom I was messing with. Now here were you messing will become I was. Whom you are messing with. So it will become whom I was messing with. So let's see now Once again, these rules, I have highlighted the rules here. So you can see interrogative sentences that can be answered in yes, no start with auxiliary verbs like is, am, are, do, does, has, have, will, shall, can, could, may, might, should, would, etc. And interrogative sentences that can't be answered in simple yes or no start with WH family words what, why, when, where, how, who, whom, etc. Now we'll deal with the further examples. If the questions can be answered, if the questions can't be answered in yes, no, don't use if and whether. Let's look at the following examples. Now, these will be obviously what kind of sentences? WH questions. Yes, because they can't be answered in yes or no. So, the direct speech structure will be WH family word plus auxiliary verb plus subject plus main verb plus object or modifier. It is optional plus question mark. So in indirect speech, how it will become? The sequence will be WH family word will remain there itself. It will not change, unlike the auxiliary verb, plus subject plus main verb plus object or modifier and full stop. So let's see the example in the direct speech based on these formulae given before or given above it. Now, the first sentence is the police said to him. Here we have the police as the reporting subject. Said is in the past, so reporting verb is in the past tense. To him is the reporting object, so obviously the tense will change now. What were you doing when the incident happened? Question mark. So the indirect speech will be the police asked him what will remain there only children, what he had been doing. Why? Because what were you doing is simple past, it is in past continuous tense, so it will become past perfect continuous tense. So in past perfect continuous means perfect the moment we say has, have and had. So past perfect means had been doing when the incident had happened. When the incident happened is in past tense, so when this also will be converted to past perfect when the incident had happened. I'll repeat the sentence. The police asked him what he had been doing when the incident had happened, full stop. Let's see another example. In the direct speech, he said, what can I do for you? In direct speech, he asked what he could do for me. Now here we see what remains the same. It is not changing and the pronoun comes before the auxiliary verb. What can I will become what he could. I will become he. The pronoun will change and can will go after the subject and it will be converted to could. And for you will become for me, as we know that the pronoun changes. Next example, in a direct speech, Ron asked me, Father, what do you do? Ron asked or inquired my father what he did. Now, as I said, do will not be converted to did, children. Uh, it will be what do you do? Now, here the first do is removed and the second do has become did. So what my father did. Next is she said to us, what do you think of yourselves? So us, that's why yourselves, and the indirect speech will be she asked us what we thought of ourselves. Again here do has been removed and the main verb think has become thought. Thought of ourselves. Yourselves will become ourselves. The pronoun will again change. Next one. My brother asked, who is that girl? My brother asked or inquired who that girl was. Now here again we saw that the subject girl has come before was and is has become was, which has come after the subject, and there's a full stop because we are converting the interrogative, the question sentences into simple statements when we are reporting. Next. The next example is the policeman said, where do you live? The answer is the policeman asked me. You can add, because this is hypothetical, it is understood that the object is supposed to be there because that's why the object is listening. So sometimes you can write down the object on your own. The policeman asked me where I lived. Again, do has been removed. Where do you live? And the main verb live has become lived, because where do you live is in simple present. It will become simple past, where I lived. Next one, he said to us, where are you going? So the answer is, in indirect speech, he asked or inquired us, where are you will become we were going. Now coming to the example of yes or no types of questions. In the direct speech, she asked me, do you live in Nagpur? So the indirect speech will be, she asked me if and whether. So now here we see that auxiliary verb do will be removed and it will be replaced by if and whether, or whether. If or whether I lived in Nagpur. So again do will not be converted, it will be removed and it will become I lived in Nagpur. Next, he said, are you Mr. Paul's son? Now here we see that said will become asked or inquired. Are you? Are is the auxiliary verb which will be removed and it will become past tense and it will be changed to were, and you will also be changed. So it will become, he asked me if or whether, as the auxiliary verb is there in the beginning, so it will be replaced by if or whether I was. Now since the subject is changing, you will become I, so accordingly the verb will become was. I was Mr. Paul's son. So it is, he asked me if or whether I was Mr. Paul's son. Next example, he said, can you accompany me to the market tomorrow? So the indirect speech is, he inquired or asked me if or whether. Now again, can is the modal verb or the auxiliary verb, you can say, which will be removed and it will be replaced by if and whether, and it will come in between and converted to could. If or whether I could. Now can you, if you see here children, the verb comes after you in the statement and you becomes I. So I will be before could. If or whether I could accompany him to the market the next day, because tomorrow will be converted to the next day. Coming to the last sentence, my mother said, have you eaten your breakfast? So the indirect speech will be, my mother inquired or asked me if I had eaten my breakfast. Now, have you eaten is the present perfect tense. It will become past perfect tense. Have you eaten your breakfast? So I think we have understood the interrogative sentences and the assertive sentences and the types of interrogative sentences with yes, no, and WH family. So I think we are clear with the children, and in the next video we'll be dealing with the exclamatory and the imperative sentences. Thank you so much.